Have you ever imagined being humiliated in public just because of the color of your skin? Now imagine it happening when all you want is to buy a gift for the most important woman in your life. Now imagine it happening in one of the most expensive places in Los Angeles, with dozens of people watching and no one saying a word. He walked into a luxury jewelry store, never imagining he'd leave escorted by police, until one detail changed everything and made his accusers bitterly regret their actions. Now pay attention to this story, because the lesson here is powerful. This is the story of Jordan Bennett, a 17-year-old who that day just wanted to make his mother smile, but he was reminded of how cruel the world can still be. It was a clear Saturday afternoon. The sky was bright, traffic light, rare for Los Angeles. Jordan Bennett walked through the gleaming corridors of a luxury mall in Los Angeles. The air conditioning cooled the space, and the windows of high-end designer stores reflected the bright ceiling lights. Well-dressed people hurried past, some carrying expensive shopping bags, others just browsing. But Jordan had a clear goal. In his pocket, he gripped his credit card tightly. He'd saved for months, working after school, cutting expenses, and planning for this special moment. His focus: to buy a ring worthy of the woman he admired most. Olivia Bennett. His mother was turning 50 that week, a strong woman who'd always fought to give him the best life possible. It was her birthday week, and Jordan wanted to surprise her. He knew an expensive gift couldn't repay everything she'd done for him, but he wanted her to feel special. That's when he stopped in front of an elegant jewelry store with its name written in gold at the entrance. The glass sparkled, displaying necklaces and rings that seemed worth a fortune. Jordan took a deep breath. He knew he wasn't the type of customer this place was used to serving, but that didn't stop him. He pushed open the door and entered. The sound of his footsteps echoed on the polished marble floor. The room was empty, silent, almost cold. There were no other customers, just a middle-aged saleswoman with a stern look, dressed in a blue blazer, standing behind the counter. She looked up and sized him up from head to toe, lingering a bit longer than necessary. Jordan smiled and approached the counter. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for a ring for my mom, a birthday gift." The woman narrowed her eyes, as if trying to gauge if he was serious. Her name was Ms. Greene, and from her look, she'd already judged who he was without needing to exchange another word. "A diamond ring?" she asked, her tone a mix of suspicion and mockery. Jordan nodded. "Yeah, I want one that's beautiful, special." The woman tilted her head and crossed her arms, not even bothering to pick up the key to the display case. "And you have the money for that?" Jordan's smile vanished instantly. He took a deep breath, trying not to show his irritation. He'd heard this kind of thing before, but he wasn't going to let it ruin the moment. Without a word, he pulled his credit card from his pocket and placed it on the counter. The saleswoman looked at the card, then at his face. A silent tension filled the room. Then, instead of opening the display case, she discreetly picked up the phone and dialed a number. "Hello, this is the jewelry store at the Plaza Mall. There's a suspicious individual here, a young black male alone, looking at the jewelry. I think he might try to steal something. Can you come quickly?" She hung up without saying anything to Jordan and then flashed a fake smile. "One moment, dear. I'll grab a model from the safe," she said, leaving Jordan there, unaware that his life was about to change completely in just a few minutes. Jordan stood at the counter, unsuspecting. He looked at the displayed jewelry, imagining which would be the best choice for his mother, but deep down, something felt off. The store was empty, and the saleswoman was taking longer than usual to return. A chill ran down his spine. That's when the store's door burst open. 2 police officers rushed in, their boots pounding heavily against the marble floor. Officer Blake and Officer Davis, both were white men, wearing dark sunglasses, hands on their holsters, as if ready to apprehend a dangerous criminal. Jordan turned, confused. "Hands where?" "I can see them," Officer Blake shouted, pointing at him. For a second, Jordan didn't understand. His heart raced. "What?" "I said, hands where I can see them," Blake repeated, now drawing his weapon. Jordan, terrified, raised his hands. At that moment, the saleswoman, Miss Greene, reappeared from the back of the store with a smug look, crossing her arms as if to say, "I knew it." "What's going on?" Jordan asked, his voice trembling. The officers approached quickly. Blake grabbed Jordan by the arm, yanking him roughly. "Stay quiet. We got a report you were trying to rob the store." "What?" Jordan's eyes widened. "I'm just buying a gift for my mom." The other officer, Davis, picked up Jordan's credit card from the counter. He looked at the card, then at the boy, and let out a mocking laugh. "This stolen?" Jordan felt a mix of anger and fear. "No! I worked for that money. I didn't do anything wrong, but they didn't listen." Blake turned Jordan around and pushed him against the counter, while Davis began searching him without any gentleness. "Any weapons on you?" Davis asked. "I'm not armed," Jordan replied, trying to contain his desperation. Customers outside the mall started watching, curious about the commotion. But no one did anything. The saleswoman just stood there, arms crossed, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. Jordan felt a lump in his throat. This wasn't the first time he'd been looked at like this, assumed to be a criminal just because of his appearance, but this time was worse. He was being humiliated in public for something he hadn't done. Blake grabbed his ID, opened it, and read the name aloud, and then his face went pale. Davis noticed his partner's reaction and asked, "What's wrong?" Blake swallowed hard, as if the ground had vanished beneath his feet. He looked at the ID again, then at Jordan, and finally realized the magnitude of their mistake, because there, in bold letters, was the name of Jordan's mother, son of Olivia Bennett, FBI director. And the silence in the store was deafening. The silence inside the jewelry store was so intense you could hear Jordan's racing heartbeat. The officers, who moments ago treated him like any suspect, now exchanged nervous glances. Officer Blake held the ID as if it were radioactive. "Olivia Bennett." He murmured, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. Olivia Bennett was no ordinary person. She was the FBI director in Los Angeles, a woman known for her rigid stance, intelligence, and zero tolerance for serious mistakes by authorities. And now, these two officers had just made a colossal error with her son. Jordan sensed something had changed. The officer's tone was no longer the same. "Listen, kid," Blake said, trying to sound calmer. "It was just a misunderstanding." "Yeah, a mistake," Officer Davis added, now attempting to sound friendly. But it was too late. Outside the store, the doors of a black car had just opened. A group of people entered the mall with firm steps and serious expressions, all wearing impeccable suits and earpieces, and in the middle of them, an elegant, imposing woman walked forward, Olivia Bennett. Her eyes locked onto Jordan. Then the officers, her expression pure ice. When the mall security saw who was approaching, some discreetly stepped back. This woman wasn't here to chat. She stopped at the store's entrance, put her hands in the pockets of her elegant coat, and let a silence settle before speaking. Then, in a controlled but razor-sharp tone, she asked, "What's going on here?" The officers froze. Miss Greene, the saleswoman who until then seemed so confident in her decision to call the police, took a step back, feeling the weight of this woman's presence. Jordan looked at his mother, feeling immediate relief, but also a wave of tension. He knew what was coming, and he knew no one there would walk away unscathed. The atmosphere in the jewelry store shifted entirely. Where the officers once had control, now Olivia Bennett called the shots. Officer Blake and Officer Davis were visibly uncomfortable. Miss Greene, who had been so sure of herself, now stood like a statue behind the counter. Olivia didn't need to raise her voice. Her presence alone was intimidating. She looked at her son first, checking if he was okay. Jordan tried to hide it, but he was still trembling slightly from the aggressive encounter. "Are you hurt?" Olivia asked. Her voice was low but laced with a dangerous edge. Jordan shook his head, swallowing hard. "No, Mom, they just treated me like a criminal for no reason." That sentence hit the room like a bomb. Olivia slowly turned to the officers, her eyes cold as ice. "I'm going to ask just once." Her voice was low, but each word carried the weight of a courtroom verdict. "Why did you treat my son like this?" The officers exchanged nervous glances. Blake, the more arrogant one earlier, now scrambled for the right words. "We got a report from the saleswoman." He pointed at Miss Greene, trying to shift the blame. "They said there was a suspicious individual in the store." Olivia raised her eyebrows. "A suspicious individual?" The officer swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am. A young male alone looking at expensive jewelry." The room fell silent for a few seconds. Then Olivia let out a soft laugh. But there was no trace of humor in it. "So, let me get this straight." She stepped closer, each of her steps echoing on the marble floor. "My son walks into a jewelry store to buy a gift for his own mother, and you assume he's a criminal?" No one answered. Officer Davis looked to Blake, hoping he'd say something, but Blake was utterly speechless. Then Olivia turned to the saleswoman. "Ms. Greene, correct?" The woman, who had been trying to blend into the background, widened her eyes. Yes, that's me." "You called the police?" The saleswoman hesitated for a second, searching for a quick excuse, but Olivia already knew the truth. "Answer me. Did you or didn't you?" The saleswoman felt cold sweat trickle down her neck. I thought something might be happening. He was alone and you decided he didn't belong here, right?" Olivia interrupted, crossing her arms. "You decided he couldn't afford anything in this store, that he must be here for some other reason." "That's not what I meant." The woman tried to defend herself. That's exactly what you meant." Olivia's tone was firm as stone. The saleswoman swallowed hard, realizing there was no way out. Then Olivia pulled out her phone, unlocked the screen, and started dialing a number. The officers stirred. What are you doing?" Blake asked. Olivia looked up slowly. "Calling your chief. I want to see how he reacts when he learns 2 of his men humiliated. The son of the FBI director for no reason." The color drained from the officers' faces. Now they were truly in trouble. The silence in the jewelry store was absolute. Everyone watched Olivia, who now held the phone to her ear, waiting for the call to connect. The officers knew exactly what this meant. Officer Blake, who had been so authoritative before, now sounded shaky. "Director Bennett," he began, his voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. Let's resolve this here, without involving others. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding." Olivia raised an eyebrow but said nothing. On the other end of the line, a gruff voice answered. "Agent Smith, FBI. Who's this?" Olivia kept her eyes locked on Blake as she responded, deliberately slow. "This is Olivia Bennett, director of the Los Angeles unit. I need you at the Plaza Mall immediately. We have a situation involving abuse of authority and illegal harassment." Blake's face lost all color. Davis, the other officer, tried to intervene, desperate. "Ma'am, this isn't necessary. We didn't know he was your son." Olivia fixed her gaze on him and crossed her arms. "Oh, so if he wasn't my son, you think this would have been acceptable?" Both swallowed hard. They had no more arguments. The store's door suddenly swung open and 3 FBI agents entered. They weren't there to mess around. "Director Bennett, we're here," one of the agents said, already grabbing a radio. "To call for backup." The officers knew they were done for. Olivia looked at them one last time and sealed their fate. "Remove these 2 from duty immediately. I want a full report on this abuse of authority on my desk by the end of the day." Davis tried to say something, but Blake grabbed his arm and shook his head. They knew they were finished. The FBI agents escorted them out of the jewelry store. As passers-by in the mall watched the scene, the same officers who humiliated Jordan were now leaving in disgrace. The silence in the jewelry store was heavy. Now that the officers were gone, only one person remained to be held accountable, the saleswoman, Ms. Greene. She stood pale, hands clasped in front of her, avoiding Olivia Bennett's gaze. But Olivia wasn't going to let her off easily. She stepped forward with that icy stare that made even seasoned FBI agents tremble. "Miss Greene, you called the police, correct?" The saleswoman hesitated but knew lying was pointless. "Yes, but I only did it because I thought it was the right thing." "The right thing?" The saleswoman swallowed hard, realizing she'd said too much. Well, he was alone, looking at expensive jewelry, and she fell silent, but it was too late. Olivia Bennett crossed her arms, not hiding her disdain. "Did you even ask if he could pay? Did you even try to treat him like a normal customer?" The saleswoman opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. That's when a tall, well-dressed man entered the store. It was Scott Whitman, the store manager. He looked furious. "Director Bennett, I'm in charge of this store, and..." He glanced at the saleswoman, clearly angry. "I just saw the security camera footage." The saleswoman's legs trembled. I only did what I thought was best for the store's security." The manager took a deep breath, trying to stay. "Patient. Best for the store? You humiliated a customer, called the police for no reason, and damaged our reputation." He paused, then declared, "You're fired." The saleswoman froze. "What? You can't do that?" I can," the manager said out of patience. "Grab your things and leave now." Her face flushed with shame and anger, but there was nothing she could do. She shot a final glance at Olivia, as if hoping for mercy, but Olivia Bennett remained impassive. Then Ms. Greene lowered her head, grabbed her purse, and left the jewelry store as fast as she could. Outside, people stared at her curiously, whispering. She disappeared into the mall without looking back. Now justice was being served. But something was still missing. With the saleswoman fired and the officers removed, the atmosphere in the jewelry store felt different. With the tension gone, Jordan could finally do what he came for: buy a gift for his mother. The store manager, Scott Whitman, still looked embarrassed by everything that had happened. He adjusted his tie and cleared his throat before speaking. "Mr. Bennett, I'm truly sorry. This never should have happened." Olivia kept a serious expression, saying nothing, but Jordan spoke first. He looked at his mother, then back at the manager. "I just want to buy a gift for her, can I?" The manager nodded quickly. "Of course. In fact, I'd like to offer the piece you choose as an apology from the store." Jordan looked at his mother again, waiting for her reaction, but Olivia gave a small, sly smile and shook her head. "My son can pay for his mother's gift." And without hesitation, Jordan placed his card on the counter. The manager looked surprised, but didn't argue. He signaled to a new saleswoman, a young, friendly woman, who immediately opened the display case and started showing the rings. This time, no one looked at him with suspicion. He picked a small but elegant diamond ring, perfect for his mother. Jordan smiled as he held it in his hands. Finally satisfied, the new saleswoman packaged the jewelry with care, and when she handed him the bag, Jordan felt his mission was complete. Olivia looked at her son with pride. This gift will mean so much more than any diamond. And then mother and son left the jewelry store together, knowing this wasn't just a simple purchase. It was a victory. Outside the mall, Jordan and Olivia walked side by side, breathing the fresh air after everything they'd been through. Inside, Jordan held the jewelry store bag tightly, still feeling the weight of what had happened. "Someday, he muttered, letting out a sigh. Olivia smiled faintly, but her gaze remained serious. Unfortunately, some people still judge others without knowing the truth. she said, looking at her son. Jordan stopped for a moment and looked at his mother. But today was different. Today you turned the tables. Olivia crossed her arms and took a deep breath before responding. Jordan, no one can take your dignity unless you let them. Never bow your head to those who try to diminish you. Jordan nodded, absorbing the lesson. He smiled and handed the small box with the ring to his mother. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope you like it. It cost a bit more than I expected. Olivia looked at her son, surprised, took the box and opened it. Inside, the ring sparkled in the sunlight. Her eyes welled up. My son, it's beautiful. She hugged Jordan tightly. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Justice had been served, respect restored, and above all, Jordan knew he had the most incredible mother by his side. In the end, justice was done. The officers who humiliated Jordan were removed from duty. The saleswoman who called the police was fired, and Jordan showed that no one can define who he is except himself. Now tell me, how many times has this happened to someone without a powerful mother to defend them? If you think this story carries an important lesson, leave a comment below and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more stories that make us think. Here we show what no one saw.